By the end of this video, you'll be able to communicate with confidence and clarity and persuade to achieve the outcomes that you want at work. And fundamentally, clear communication comes from structure. So I'm going to give you a structure that you can use for any work discussion, from a one-on-one meeting to a team update to a large group workshop. So with that, let's dive into the first step of the structure, which is set the objective. The first thing you should do at the beginning of any discussion is set the objective. Now, you'd be surprised at how many people go into a discussion with only some vague notion about what they're trying to achieve. But good communicators, they always know specifically what they're trying to achieve for every discussion. Every discussion has a purpose. Now, setting the objective is important for a few different reasons. One, actually, it makes you look really good because it shows that you respect people's time and have thought about what needs to be achieved in the discussion. 2, it aligns everybody on where the discussion will be heading. 3, it helps prevent people from derailing the conversation with unrelated topics. 4, it permits you to steer the conversation back on topic if needed. And finally, 5, it clearly defines what success looks like for the discussion. And this is the most important thing, a definition of success. So at the beginning of any discussion, explicitly share your objective with your colleagues before you dive into the detail. And once that's done, you can move to the next step, which is sharing the context. You've set the objective of the discussion and everybody understands what success looks like. So now you need to ensure that everybody's primed to contribute. Now, what you don't want is some people having enough background to understand what's going on and others not understanding and not contributing, or worse, derailing the discussion. So you need to share the context at the beginning of the meeting to get everybody on the same page. Now, there are a few ways that you can do this. The first way is to communicate the lead up to this point. So a quick timeline or a reminder of past efforts and decisions gives participants the mental thread to tie the conversation to. 2, state the premises and assumptions. So every discussion rests on certain assumptions, whether you realize it or not. So make them explicit so everybody's working from the same foundation. 3, outline the scope and boundaries. So make it explicit what's in scope and what's out of scope for discussion, which helps prevent unproductive tangents. 4, surface any gaps or open questions. So bring some key questions to light so people are primed to address them. And if you successfully set the context at the beginning, then everybody understands what you'll be talking about, why you'll be talking about it, what's in discussion versus not, and what a good outcome looks like. And by the way, I've put together a one-page cheat sheet for effective discussion that summarizes everything in this video. It's completely free and I'll put the link in the description below. And once you've set the context for the discussion and everybody has the necessary background information, it's time to walk through the agenda. Now, when I say agenda, I don't necessarily mean a formal agenda with strict timings, but you do need a structure for your meeting. Now, I want to repeat this because it's so important. Your meeting needs a structure. We've all been in those meetings that turn into absolute chaos with no clear purpose and that lead to no tangible outcome. They're a waste of time and effort, but a structure avoids all of this. So to build a structure, you start with the goal or the outcome that we spoke about in the beginning, and then you think backwards through what needs to be covered in the meeting to achieve that outcome. Each of those things basically becomes an agenda item. Now, in most cases, all you need to do is briefly share the 3 or 4 things that need to be covered in the meeting, really informal. It could be as simple as, we'll start by discussing option 1, then option 2, then we'll make a decision, and we'll end by agreeing on next steps for implementation. Having an informal agenda like this helps in a few ways. 1, it gives everybody a mental map that helps them follow along during the meeting. 2, it naturally structures the meeting in distinct topics or sections. And 3, it helps everybody save their questions for the right sections. And now everybody knows the objective of the discussion, they have the relevant context, and they understand what will be covered along the way. It's time to facilitate the discussion. You might have noticed that we're already at the last step of the process and the actual discussion hasn't started yet. And this is because most of the structuring actually happens before the discussion starts. And even the most well-structured meetings do need facilitation. So when the discussion does start, good communicators, they take charge and they guide the conversation. Now, this doesn't mean that you do all the talking. It means that you enable others to achieve the outcome or the goal that you set. Now, there are 3 main things that good facilitators manage. 1 is they keep the discussion relevant. So as we talked about earlier, complex discussions and decisions will almost certainly result in participants going on tangents. You should entertain deviations temporarily because it keeps the conversation natural, but bring it back to the outcome if they go on for too long. Now 2, the second thing that a good facilitator does is manage personalities and conflicts. They say it's hard to hear the wise when the bold won't stop talking. So you need to draw out quiet voices while managing dominant ones. Everybody needs to be heard because everybody could have a perspective that's worth listening to. And when conflicts arise, you need to address disagreements neutrally. You may be able to resolve some, but others might have to be parked for later. Last thing a good facilitator does is they guide the flow and the timing of the meeting. So keep an eye on the clock, manage the speed of the conversation as required. It pays to be outcome oriented and think about how are we progressing to achieve the objective that we set. And as a side note, I always found it hard to stop and move on from a particularly colourful conversation, but I realised the trick is actually to jump in and summarise where things are at and then shamelessly start the next topic. And if all goes well, you will have facilitated the discussion to reach the outcome that you're trying to achieve. Also, I have a comprehensive template pack that enables you to create slide decks like McKinsey. It contains almost 200 slides across 9 business topics, over 500 PowerPoint shapes and elements, and almost 1,000 unique business icons. I'll put a link in the description below. So that's how you communicate at work to achieve the outcomes that you want. So irrespective of what type of discussion it is, start by setting the objective, followed by sharing the important context, and then step through an informal agenda or roadmap, and finally facilitate the discussion to achieve the objective that you set. Now, if you want to improve your communication skills even further and learn the framework that McKinsey uses to communicate with senior executives called top-down communication, just click on the video on screen now.